it's Diane, the Creative Inkster, and today is Monday, March the 6th, and I'm going to make an Easter card today, and I want to show you this super easy layout, give you some measurements, and let you go wild with duplicating it with whatever other products you have. All you need is a focal point. I want to show you another thing I did with vellum here and cardstock together, and we'll look at the differences and how it has a different look when you combine them. So thanks for being here. If you're watching live, please leave me a comment. I'd love to have you check in and let me know where you're calling in or you're watching from. And then when you're watching the replay, let me know that you were here and what your comments are and thoughts are on this video. So the suite that I am showing, or the bundle, is Easter Bunny, and it's this really cute stamp set. Which is $26, or together with the punch is $46.75. Only I have some sad news. The punch is on back order till May 15th, which is not good for Easter, but does mean it'll be very likely in our new catalog that's coming out early May, because there would be no reason otherwise for it to be there. So that would be my deduction. And so you can see that it is a really adorable and a punch, and it matches this bunny here and the one that I've used on my picture or on my card. However, these are really easy to cut out by hand. So unless you love the punch, which I would for doing lots of different cards, you can get just the stamp set and be on your way with your Easter cards, no problem at all. So I posted the directions and the sizing and stuff for making this card. So let me pull that stuff out of my little bag here, and we'll get started on this adorable card. But what I love about this is the 3 pieces of pattern paper that I'm going to share the measurements with you. It makes this totally duplicatable with any other pattern paper that you have, and it scraps, let me tell you. You're not cutting into lots of pieces of paper to make this. So we've got a card base. I'm using crumb cake. Can't remember last time I used crumb cake, but it's so perfect for a bunny. And this measures 11 inches by 4 1/4. It's scored at 5 1/2 and folded. That's the middle, and that's our base card base. You could also do it the other way, but I love this kind of look when it sits up on my shelf. So there's my card base. I'm just going to tuck that aside for a moment. Then I need a piece of a layer, and it needs to fit within the realm of the card base. So this is going to be 4 by 5 1/4, and I've chosen petal pink. It's so perfect with these other really soft colors. And then we have a piece of white on which the pattern papers are going to go, and I haven't cut mine yet for tonight. I'm going to show you how I did that. And this piece measures 3 3/4 by 5, so you're seeing layering happening here with a 1/8 inch border all the way around. And how you do this, if you're new to card making and don't know, is our standard size of the front of a card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then you go in a 1/4 inch on each measurement in from there. Hi, Brenda. And that's how you get those 1/8 inch all the way around borders. And then we've got our pattern paper. So I don't have it right in front of me, so let me grab what I had posted. So what we're looking at is one strip down here is going to be 1 1/2 by 4 3/4. So that's the non-8 inch measurement. So this time I'm using the same colors, but I'm using just a little bit different pattern. So 1 1/2. And again, these are just cast off pieces. In fact, that's 2 1 1/2 inch pieces by 4 3/4. That's my first layer. That's going to go here on this side. Then the next piece, both of them are 1 7/8 inch wide. And the first one is 3 inches tall, and the other one is 1 5/8 inches tall. So let's do this one here. That's 1 7/8 across. Let's double check that measurement, because we know we get excited and we forget. 1 7/8 by 3. So 1 7/8. So the smaller the pattern you have, the nicer this kind of works. If you have a big pattern, you might have a little more white space showing, but with nice small patterns, this is great. So then once again, it's 1 7/8 across by 1 5/8 tall. So this is a little bit more wonky, I call it, of a measurement, because it's not simple 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch. That was 1 7/8 by 1 5/8. Just gonna find that on my paper trimmer here. There we go. I got a piece that I can use over, and that's the piece that's going to go down here. So these are going to layer really nicely onto this piece of white. And I want to leave a little bit of a border. I'm going to pull this in so you can see that as a reference point. I want to leave a little bit of border showing. So I'm going to just put this down and watch for my little white border on all 3 sides. So I hope you dug out of your snowbound place wherever you live. We sure got a dumping where we live, and it was quite a bit of snow on Friday night, and then Saturday morning my sons who live at home with me were out there shoveling and snow blowing and getting it all cleared, which was great, and I could get out and get the groceries. And then this piece is going to go here, and I'm going to line it up as best I can in line with the one on the left, and still leave a nice little border in between and on the other side. So another about 1/8 inch border. The other color in this paper, I should have mentioned the paper. It is called Country Gingham, and it is in the January to April mini catalog. You get 48 sheets of 6 by 6 in 6 sheets of each, so quite a lot of patterns to work with and pretty colors to work with. And then our last piece is going to slide in here. And don't worry if you're not perfectly even all the way around on your little white borders, because we're going to cover it up here and there, and that'll be fine, especially that center piece with our focal point. So if you wrote those down, that's great. You've got all the measurements. So again, it was 1 1/2 by 4 3/4, 1 7/8 by 3, and 1 7/8 by 1 5/8. That'll be on my blog post, which I'll pin inside the Facebook post after this class. All right, so there's our first bit of layering, and then we're going to put this onto the petal pink, and there we go. We have some beautiful color coordination there. I didn't pop this up until I got to putting it on the card base, so that'll be when I pop it up. We're not putting ribbon around this layer, so it's good to go down. If I was putting ribbon around, I'd want to wrap that before I stuck it onto this card layer. There we go. And now I can pop it up onto my card base. It's starting to take shape, starting to come together. I use the regular size dimensionals. Some people like the minis. They go a long, long way. And I put a couple extra in the middle of my card just so it doesn't sag if it goes in the mail. I love this cute little bunny set. It's pretty adorable. And there's nothing to say it has to go this way. You could turn it this way. Whatever suits you. But see how you could use your various pattern paper up using this kind of layout. All right, so now we're ready to do our focal point and our greeting. So I'm using this decorative circle punch, but clearly you can use any kind of circle, square, whatever shaped punch you have. It'll be fine. And so I'm going to just punch one out. I punched that piece just for the photo, but I'm going to punch out one of these in petal pink. And from this piece of vellum, I'm also going to punch one out. So this comes in our vellum pack that is 3 3/4 by 5, and you get 40 odd sheets in there. Some of them have printed images on them, and the rest of them, I think there's at least half of them are just plain vellum. So it's a perfect size to work with. You don't feel overwhelmed by cutting into an 8 1/2 by 11 inch sheet. So I'm just going to slide this in here. And I'm going to get that where I want it to be. Oh, I should tell you, one of the tricks to getting vellum to lay down and not show the adhesive through is to use our adhesive sheets onto your vellum before you punch or die cut it. The other option is to have your adhesive hide behind the elements that are on top. And that's the trick I'm going to use today. So I can go ahead and punch this with no adhesive on it. Punches nice and cleanly. And I'm going to put this on here. So if I were to just put the vellum onto my card, why don't we wait? We'll put this piece together last. And I'll show you what it looks like with just vellum on there for the card color, cardstock color, or the vellum over top. And you can sort of see the different looks and what you're getting. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is some stamping and coloring. I'm going to grab my block and a scrap piece of white here. Let's see, this was a circle for something. And I'm going to grab my bunny that works with the punch, but you could most definitely use any of the bunnies in this set, and you could hand cut it out because it's not that complicated and edging. I'm going to color in with watercolor pencils and a blender pen. Normally I'd use basic black, not basic black, tuxedo black, and use my coloring around that. But I like the soft look of using soft suede. It's less stark than a black and still allows me to do some coloring in if I'm careful and let it dry. So that's my stamping on there. I'm going to punch this out. That's the plan, or hand cut it. And I'm going to grab my watercolor pencil. So this is the original set that comes with 13 pencil colors. And this is a blender pen. They come in a 3-pack. So I'm going to use some blue. It's actually called Pacific Point, which matches our inks. Melon Mambo, which seems like a bright pink, but we're going to be able to work with the colors and not make it too dark a color, and Early Espresso. So you don't have to worry that this is going to be too dark, like when you use an ink pad or a marker. You can gauge the coloring here. So I'm going to do the ear first, and on the inside of the ear, I'm going to just lightly color in with my watercolor pencil. So with these, you typically want your pencils to not be super sharp. So I did recently sharpen this Pacific Point to quite a point. So I'm going to be careful when I'm using it. But you just want to use a little bit, and you want it to be a bit dull. And then around the eye, I'm going to put a little bit of this blue. You don't need your watercolor pencils to be in absolutely every color. If you use shading and just a light touch or a heavier touch as you're coloring, you'll find that you get the depth of color you're looking for. And then thirdly, I'm going to use Early Espresso, and I did do this little gaffer in grays as well, so that's another option. And I'm just going to lightly, with this blunt edged pencil, add some color. And then you're going to see that it gets streaky when you add the pencil color, especially across a large area. And we're going to smooth all that out with a blender pen. So I'm going to carefully go around the eye so that I'm not interfering with the blue pencil I've got there. But I'm going to just add some here, and it's going to have some natural shading where I've added a little more of a heavier touch or a lighter touch. And once you've blended it with the blender pen, you can go back and add more color in spots where it maybe needs to be a little darker. This is very relaxing. I gotta tell you, coloring is a nice relaxing little activity. I guess I could have left his tail white, or her tail white. So I'm just smoothing it out over the entire body of my bunny. I saw a bunny just this color in my backyard this morning, and the dogs, Riley, saw the bunny, but wasn't too interested in chasing it. I had a good laugh because I thought, dude, you're not going to catch that thing. So let's just stay calm. Just going to grab a piece of scrap here that I can wipe off my pencil crank, my blender pen. So with the blender pens, they have two ends, and like many of our, like our markers, but it's the same liquid that comes out of both. And you probably can't see that, but when I'm coloring with it, I can tell that this is a good blender pen, that it has solution in it because it's a bit shiny when I put the color down there. So then I'm just going to first start with the lightest, which was really the ear. And within the segment of the ear, I'm going to just use my blender pen to gently blend that color around. And it gets rid of those streaky lines that you see. And then I'm going to wipe it off so I can get rid of the pink. And then I'm going to go over the eye where the blue is. And I'm going to do that little area. And it smooths out the edges there too. Once again, you need to wipe it off. And just go back and forth. What I'll find is that the color gets around it. So I go from one side to the other. And now I'm ready to go in on the bunny. So I'm going to go up and do this ear. And if your paper is just plain basic white or our old whisper white, it might pill a little bit. And that's okay, because that gives it the look of being being fur-like. So I'm going to add a little bit more around this edge. And I'm going to blend that a little bit in. Just kind of defines it a little bit more. And just keep going around. And you'll find that you're blending the color and smoothing the streaks out. But when it's an animal, you're actually adding some fur-like to it. I just might have put a little bit too much in there. That's okay. We'll smooth that out too. And then across here, through his legs. So yeah, we saw the bunny, and I didn't think he'd get through the gate, but he did. He was able to creep underneath the gate and head over to my neighbor's yard. But the bunnies tend to come into my backyard and do their business. And for some ridiculous reason, Riley finds that to be appetizing. So I'm forever telling him to leave that alone and don't have that. It's not for him. But they come in there. I don't have a much of a garden or a worry of them coming in for the garden in the summertime and eating lettuce or anything like that. But in the winter, they just pop through. I think they're being chased out by the dogs in the yards behind us. Okay, so once again, I'm going to wipe that off so that I'm ready to go and I'm ready to use it again. Here we go. I'm going to use the punch. Maybe I'll even show you, because there's time. Let me show you how to cut it out and just how easy that really and truly is. You want to, when you're cutting something out, leave a little bit of a white border, and you don't want to be moving your scissors as much as you're moving the paper so that you don't have that change. So I'm actually following around the edge of it, not really raising my scissors all that much, and just moving my paper around. Not a perfect science. Sometimes you lose your concentration. That's okay. And come around the ears. Don't want them to look like the Easter bunny whose ears we eat off first, and then around the back and through this little bumpy area at his neck, round over the back of the body, up for the cute little tail. And this just works a lot easier than if you're trying to do it and here's another one that I had cut out, and then you go like this, and then you cut like this, and then you cut like that. You're going to get a lot of hard edges that way, but when you follow around and do it that way, you get some smooth edges, and it cuts out almost like the punch. All right, I said we would take a look at what it looks like to put this together. So here is one option, just with the petal pink decorative circle, as compared to my sample, which is a little softer, I find. Then here's another option with the vellum. Shows a lot more of the paper through. I kind of like that option. And it's a touchy-feely thing. You would feel the vellum, you would see the vellum. And then this, or this one here where it's all together. So this time I think I'll actually just use the vellum, and then we'll let that show through, and I'll show you how I put this together. May not work quite so well with the ribbon. So if I was to put this down on here with glue dots or liquid glue, you're going to see all of that liquid behind there. So what I'm going to do is build my bunny on top of the vellum, and then when I put it down on the card, I'll put vellum where the white of the bunny will hide any adhesive. So we're going to liquid glue this guy down. Could pop them up if I wanted to. But I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid. So because I'm going on vellum, I'm going to try and not get too much liquid glue, or it'll get everywhere. So get this the right way up, because this is a decorative circle. Here we go. Press it on there. While that's drying, I'm going to grab some of this ribbon, which is in the annual catalog, metallic edge cotton ribbon. It's kind of a vanilla sort of look with silver edge. So I want to see how much I want. I just want it to show through a little bit, but I want it to show off. Cut about 8 inches. Alrighty. And we're going to use glue dots to affix this. Liquid glue and ribbon are not a good match. You want to use glue dots. So I'm going to put glue dots where the bunny body is. Actually, in fact, rather than glue dots, I'm going to use the tear and tape. I'd have to put a whole bunch of glue dots, and if I use the tear and tape, that is a lot faster for me. And you know, I would have used one of our tape runners, but I'm completely out. So this was another option. And if you haven't heard me say before, tear and tape at $9.75, I think it is for the big roll, is actually cheaper than any of the other tape runners that we have. Just an inch, by the inch. So I did a little comparison once, and was pleasantly surprised to see that. So I use my tear and tape a lot more. All right, so there's my folded ribbon. I'm going to plop that down on here, and do not fear, it's not going to go flying away, because I'm going to put some of my dimensionals to help hold it in place. But before I do that, I'm just going to snip these edges cleanly, and I'm using my ribbon scissors, which if you're a crafter, sewer, you know you have special scissors just for ribbon and fabric. So now we're going to put some dimensionals, and we don't want them to show, so we're going to have them hide behind where the bunny is. So we'll put one up here. This is where the mini ones would maybe come in handy. We're going to put one that goes over the ribbon and still on the white body. And one here. And then this is going to float on there, and no one is going to see that through the vellum. Okay, I'm going to get this in the center. And there. Just like that. And it's kind of meeting in the center where all of these squares kind of connect. For the greeting, I'm using the Stylish Shapes dies, which have squares, circles, and these flagged end ones, and I used this small one. I die cut it first. I think I'm missing one of the squares. I think it's somewhere in the craft room, so I'll have to be on the hunt to locate that. Now I did have, there's my die cut piece, and I'm going to use that same soft suede and Happy Easter in the stamp set and the block. There it is. bunny off. And because it's photopolymer, which means it's see-through, I can see exactly where I'm placing it. I can use my punched or die-cut shape first and reach in and see exactly where it's going to land, or certainly easier than if I'm going through red rubber. Here we go. Happy Easter. And we'll put some dimensionals on that to pop it up, and then I think we can call this card done. And I think he's turned out really well. And I want to thank you for watching, tuning in, and hope that you use this paper set of paper layout for one of your cards. And maybe you learned something new about using vellum and how to adhere it onto a card. So there's my 2 samples. Oh, and a few little rhinestones. Oh, you're going to love this. Check it out. I'm waiting for my order to arrive. I literally have maybe 2 stuck in the bottom. I have 2 rhinestones left. That is crazy. Usually I have packages and packages of these, but I have a lot of the other stuff right now, so I'm just cutting back on my rhinestone usage. There we go. He's all finished. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here, and have a good evening. Bye for now.